You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 33. The suppressor of the three mountains makes a great stir in the Qingzhou prefecture. The thunderer wanders in the dark amidst the devastated village. The soldiers escorting the prisoners were armed with spears, cudgels, halberds, and swords, and were morally supported further by a band of drums and gongs. They had barely covered 14 li, when as they were approaching a big forest the soldiers in the advance halted, and reported that they saw spies among the trees. But the unconvinced Huang Xian merely growled at the column for having stopped, and ordered that they should march on, and take no further notice of the supposed spying. The column had to obey, and the wood was now close at hand when suddenly about 30 gongs were sounded simultaneously among the trees, with the natural consequence that the soldiers were frightened out of their wits and began to scatter. Huang Xian's shout, however, stopped them. Stand firm. Fall into ranks. Magistrate Liu. You guard the prisoners. Already, Magistrate Liu on his horse had got the wind up, and exclaimed, May we be saved by the goddess of mercy from a calamity. Aiya. Aiya. I will offer 100,000 scriptures, at 30 altars for the benefit of those in the afterlife. Save us. Save us. His face became the color of a green pumpkin, and then turned yellow. Huang Xian, being a military officer, had no fear. He whipped his horse and dashed to the front. There he could see that there were about 500 brigands among the trees. They were all tall, and had fierce appearances. They all wore red turbans, and short jackets, and had swords in their belts, and long spears in their hands. They had by this time surrounded his column. Then 3 big men sprang out of the forest. Their dress was blue, green, and red respectively, and on their turbans was the one swastika in gold. They each carried a big sword and a halberd in hand, barring the road. These were the bandit chiefs, namely Elegant Tiger, Stunted Tiger, and the white-faced squire. They bellowed out, You can go no further unless you give us 3,000 taels of gold. Colonel Huang Xian shouted, You fellows are not going to treat us in this way. The suppressor of 3 mountains is here. The 3 bandit chiefs glared at him, and shouted, Even if you guarded 10,000 mountains you would have to pay just the same. You shall not pass here without payment. I am a colonel on official business, so why should you expect me to pay the money? The chiefs laughed, Even if the emperor himself came this way, he would have to pay the toll. If you have no money, then you can leave the man who transacts official business as ransom with us until you raise the cash. Huang Xian was highly infuriated by such insolence, shouted back, You brigands! How dare you be so impudent? Ordering the drums and gongs to be beaten so as to have a martial air, he whipped his horse and charged with his sword in hand. The chiefs defended themselves, but although Huang Xian used all his available skill and strategy, he could not hold himself against the 3 even after 10 bouts. Magistrate Liu was at the back shivering in his shoes, and instead of helping he was seriously thinking of running away. Huang Xian at last realized that he was in danger of being captured by these men, so turning his horse, galloped back to his soldiers with the 3 brigand chiefs following at his heels. Huang Xian had no time to care for his own soldiers, but rode off by himself towards the town whence they had just come. When the soldiers saw Huang Xian leaving them there was confusion, and they left the prisoner's cart and scattered in all directions. Magistrate Liu was soon left by himself, and seeing the hopeless position of affairs whipped his horse and followed the rabble. But some of the brigands seeing Magistrate Liu escaping drew a rope across his track, brought his horse down, and took him prisoner. Having released Huarong and Song Jiang from the cage on the cart, they stripped the clothes from Magistrate Liu and gave them to Song Jiang. The band then set out for their stronghold on the mountain with the horses as their booty, and the magistrate as their prisoner. Now before this conflict the brigands had sent spies into Qingfeng town, and they had duly reported that Huarong had been arrested, and that Huang Xian had captured Song Jiang on the road. So every road had been watched, and the ambush cleverly arranged. The bandits reached their camp about 10 p.m. that evening, and the chiefs assembled in the hall to discuss matters. They all sat down to take dinner with Song Jiang and Hua Rong in the central seats of honor. I and my elder brother Song are deeply indebted to you for saving our lives and revenging our wrong. In the town, however, are my wife and my sister, and I am afraid that Huang Xian will now arrest them. How can we save them? Colonel Hua, do not worry about that, said Yen Shun. I think that Colonel Huang Xian will not dare touch your family. We know that even if he does, he will still have to pass along this road again. We three will go tomorrow, and bring your family here. He then ordered some of his men to go into the town, and spy what was being done there. Hua Rong expressed his gratitude for this action. Let us now have the prisoner Lu Gao here, said Song Jiang. He is bound to a pillar on the veranda, said Yen Shun. We will cut open his chest, and present you with his heart. I will do that myself, said Hua Rong. They all went outside to the veranda. There Song Jiang reviled Lu Gao. Previously I had no quarrel with you, so why did you foolishly listen to your wife's false statements? Now that we have caught you, what have you to say? Don't ask him any questions, said Hua Rong. He opened the prisoner's breast with his sword, and cutting out the heart presented it to Song Jiang. The soldiers took away the corpse. We have disposed of this vile scoundrel, said Song Jiang, but as we have not yet got his whore of a wife. My hatred of her still exists. Never mind, brother, said Stunted Tiger, I will go tomorrow, and get her, and she will then belong to me. They all laughed at this. They soon finished their feast, and went to sleep. Early the next morning they again discussed an attack on Qingfeng town. Yen Shun said, our men are all tired out after yesterday's work, so we had better let them rest today. They all agreed to this as there was no particular urgency about the proposed actions. Upon reaching Qingfeng town, Colonel Huang Xian issued an order that foot soldiers and cavalry should strengthen the guards at the 4 barriers outside the town. It was not a walled town. He also wrote a dispatch to Prefect Murong, and sent 2 express messengers with it. They reached the prefectural town during the night, but when the prefect was informed that an urgent dispatch had arrived, he at once went to the yamen to receive it. The dispatch read, Hua Rong has rebelled and joined the bandits on Qingfeng Mountain. It is extremely important that reinforcements should be dispatched at once to safeguard the town. The prefect was surprised at the news and at once sent for General Qin Ming, commander-in-chief of the troops in the prefecture. Now the general was a native of Kaizhou in Jili province and had an excitable nature. He always spoke in a very loud voice, and therefore he got the nickname, the Thunderer. For 2 generations his forefathers had been in the army. He was skilled in the use of the mace with which he could overcome even 10,000 soldiers. When he heard the prefect's summon, he at once went to the yamen. After they had exchanged the usual salutations, the prefect handed him the dispatch to read. General Qin Ming was very angry and said, how dare the fellow do such a thing? Your Excellency need not worry. I will send soldiers at once. I swear that if I do not arrest those bandits, I will not see you again. I am afraid, said Prefect Murong, that if we delay, the bandits will attack Qingfeng town. I will see that action is taken immediately, replied General Qin Ming. I will give orders this very night, and the soldiers will march off early in the morning. The prefect was much pleased, and at once gave orders that wine and rations for the troops should be sent outside the town, and distributed to the soldiers the following morning. General Qin Ming went to his headquarters, and issued orders mustering 100 horsemen, and 400 infantry for the expedition the following morning outside the town. The prefect went himself to a monastery outside the city, and there supervised the distribution for each soldier of 2 steamed buns, 1 jean of meat, and 3 bowls of wine. When this had been prepared, he saw the soldiers leaving the town with a red flag bearing the name, General Qin, Commander-in-Chief of Infantry and Cavalry. General Qin was with them, wearing his helmet and armor. His appearance indeed was a fine spectacle. As soon as he saw the prefect, he rode forward and dismounted. After the usual ceremony of saluting, the prefect presented the general with a cup of wine, and said, "Take due precautions, and quickly return with victories." When the rations had been distributed to the troops, a signal cannon was fired, and they marched off on the road to Qingfeng town. The bandits on Qingfeng Mountain were duly informed by their scouts of the departure of these troops, and were rather surprised at this sudden move. Huarong said, "Gentlemen, don't worry. There is an ancient saying, urgent report of the arrival of troops demands a determination to face them even unto death. We had better order our men to take enough food and wine, and afterwards act according to my instructions. We must first use force, and then outwit them with guile." He then whispered his plan. "Your plan is good," said Song Jiang. "Let it be carried out." The men were ordered accordingly, and that day Song Jiang and Huarong arranged their plan. Huarong selected one of the best horses for himself, and put on his mailed armor and helmet. He also got in good condition his bow, arrows, and spears. Now General Qin Ming, the Thunderer, marched with his army until he was a few li from Qingfeng Mountain, where he encamped for the night. When his troops had had their meal about 4 a.m. next morning, he ordered a cannon to be fired as a signal for a forward march. He selected an open space where the troops were spread out, accompanied by the rolling of drums. Just then, however, he heard gongs being sounded on the mountain, and saw a large body of mounted bandits galloping down the mountain path. He recognized Huarong among the brigands, and pulling up his horse he seized his wolf's teeth mace. Upon reaching the foot of the mountain, a gong was again sounded, and all the mounted bandits formed themselves into ranks. Huarong on his horse saluted the Thunderer. "Huarong," shouted the Thunderer, "your ancestors were military officers, and you yourself received your commission from the Emperor. You were given a salary and commanded to guard this county, so where have you got dissatisfied? Now you join these bandits and openly rebel against the government. I have come here to arrest you. If you are intelligent, just dismount and be bound by ropes, and so a dirty business may be avoided." Huarong laughed at this and said, "Sir, please listen. How dare I rebel? Magistrate Lu Gao has concocted false charges against me. As he was persecuting me, I had no other place for refuge than this. I request that you personally investigate the charges, and so help to clear me of the accusation." "How long will it be before you dismount?" asked the Thunderer. "You have made a sophisticated speech in order to demoralize my troops." He ordered the drums to be sounded, and raising his mace he advanced towards Huarong. Huarong laughed again. "Qin Ming, do you not understand the forbearance of a decent man? I have treated you as my superior officer, but please do not think that I am afraid of you." Thereupon he urged his horse forward, and held his spear ready for action. They both engaged in conflict, but after about 50 rounds neither of them gained any advantage. So Huarong decided to make a feint, and turning his horse he galloped away down the road. The Thunderer was very angry at this and pursued him. Huarong put his spear aside, took his bow, and reined in his horse. Turning round in the saddle he shot an arrow, which severed the tassel on the Thunderer's helmet, and it fell to the ground. This served as a warning, and the Thunderer, being startled, dared not go any further. He pulled up his horse and turned round with the idea of dealing with the followers who had come with Huarong. But the bandits had all turned, and were in retreat up the mountain. Huarong had also now turned off the road, and was also heading for the mountain by another path. This escape of the enemy made General Qin Ming, the Thunderer, more angry, and he said, "These rascals are detestable." He at once gave orders for a general advance up the mountain, and the drums and gongs were beaten accordingly. The soldiers shouted as they advanced. They had not gone very far when they were assailed from above by chamber pots, bottles of lime, large boulders, and logs of wood rolled down the slope. About 50 men were killed at once, and the rest, realizing their danger, turned and fled. General Qin Ming was now extremely angry, but also had to retreat. About noon many gongs were beaten on another hill to the west, and he saw there another body of bandits with red flags. He led a number of his cavalry in that direction, but when they got there they could not see the flags and brigands. There was only a small track there for woodcutters, and even that was obstructed by a heap of timber and bushes. He gave order that the trees be removed, but just as his soldiers were going to do this, they heard gongs sounded on another hill to the east side, and looking across they saw bandits there with red flags. General Qin Ming immediately rushed his cavalry to the eastern hill, but upon arriving there were no bandits or red flags. Again there was only a small track obstructed by loose trees and bushes. Just then a scout reported to him that there were bandits with red flags again on the western hill. General Qin Ming again galloped his cavalry to the western hill, but upon arriving there was not a single bandit to be seen. The Thunderer was now mad with rage, and ground his teeth with passion. Again he heard the brigands sounding their gongs on the eastern hill, but upon going there again there was only the same result. He gave orders that a road up the mountain must be found, and one of his soldiers stepped forward, and spoke respectfully, "There is evidently no proper road here, but on the southeast side there is a good road up the mountain. If we try to find a way here I am afraid we shall be entrapped." "We must go at once by that road," said the general. The troops were rushed in that direction, but when they reached their objective it was growing dusk, so they encamped there, and went to prepare their evening meal. Just then they happened to see lighted torches upon the hill, and many gongs were being beaten. General Qin Ming was so angry that he led about 50 cavalrymen up the mountain. They were met by a storm of arrows, and several of his men were wounded. He returned to the camp and ordered his soldiers to get the evening meal finished as quickly as possible. The cooking fires had just been lighted when they saw about 90 bandits on the mountain, who had many torches, and were blowing whistles. General Qin Ming quickly got some of his soldiers ready, and was on the point of starting when the bandits extinguished their torches. It was a cloudy night so that there was not much moonlight. General Qin Ming was still angry, and he now gave his officers orders to set the forest on fire. But before this could be done there was a sound of flutes and drums, and he saw about 10 torches blazing on the top of a hill. Mounting his horse he went towards the light, and there saw Huarong and Song Jiang seated at a table eating and drinking. General Qin Ming reined in his horse and shouted insults to them. Huarong laughed and said, "General Qin, you need not be so hot-tempered. Go back and rest yourself. Tomorrow we will fight again, and either you or I will be victorious." "Rebellious bandit," thundered General Qin Ming. "Come down here. I will have a few hundred bouts with you now, and afterwards we can discuss matters." Huarong laughed and said, "General Qin, you must be tired after today's exertions, so if I defeat you now it would not be much to my credit. Go back, and come again tomorrow." General Qin was angrier than ever, and continued to insult them. He would have gone to look for a road up the mountain, but for the fear of the arrows from Huarong's bow. While he was still cursing them, however, he heard a noise in his camp below. He turned his horse and galloped back to his camp, but upon reaching there he saw that the bandits were attacking the camp with fireballs and fire arrows. In the shadows at the rear of the camp many brigands let fly a shower of crossbows. His soldiers, seeing their danger, were leaving the camp and seeking shelter in the deep ditches. It was now about 1 a.m. While his men were hiding in all kinds of hollow there was a rush of water, and they were in danger of being drowned in a mountain torrent. The bandits occupied the banks of the stream, seized the soldiers by iron hooks, and many of the latter were drowned in the water. General Qin Ming was almost crazy with anger at this, but just then he noticed a small footpath. He turned his horse into it, and went forward. He had not gone more than about 50 paces when his horse stumbled and fell into a pit. Immediately about 50 brigands armed with iron hooks appeared, and lifted up the general. They stripped him off his mail, helmet, and weapons, and binding him with ropes took him up the mountain. All this was in accordance with the plans of Huarong. He had divided his men so as to entice General Qin to gallop backwards and forwards, and so exhaust his men and horses without obtaining any result. He had filled bags with earth, and dammed up the mountain stream, and then during the night forced the enemy into the stream, and then released the water. Of General Qin Ming's troops about half were drowned in this way, and about 200 were captured alive. Also about 80 fine horses were seized. When the bandits reached their stronghold with General Qin Ming, day was just breaking. The 5 leaders were already seated in the main building when the brigands arrived and brought General Qin to the hall. Huarong immediately jumped up from his seat and leaving the hall went and untied the ropes binding the general. He conducted the thunderer into the hall and there kowtowed to him. The general returned the courtesy and questioned, "I am your prisoner, and you may now kill me. But why do you treat me like this?" Huarong knelt down and said, "Our men did not recognize your eminence and have ill-treated you. We ask for your forgiveness." General Qin Ming was presented with new uniform, and he then asked Huarong, "Who is this leader of these heroes?" "This is Song Jiang, formerly a clerk in the magistrate's yamen at Yunqing County. These other 3 are the leaders of this stronghold, Yan Shun, Wang Ying, and Jing Tianshou." "I know these 3 gentlemen," said General Qin Ming. "Is Song Jiang also known in Shandong province as Welcome Rain?" "That is I," interposed Song Jiang. General Qin Ming saluted and said, "I have heard of your illustrious name for a long time, but I never anticipated meeting you here today." Song Jiang quickly returned the salute, but in his doing so General Qin Ming noticed that he limped a little, so he asked what was the cause of it. Thereupon Song Jiang told him in detail his adventures from the time he lived at Yunqing County. General Qin Ming wagged his head and said, "What a great many mistakes are made by listening to only one side of a case. Let me get back and tell the prefect Murong all about this affair." Yan Shun requested the general to stay with them for a few days. Now they at once started feasting with goat and horse meat. After a few rounds of drinking, the general arose and said, "Gentlemen and heroes, as you are so good as not to kill me, I now request you to return to me my helmet and mail, my horse and sword, and allow me to go back to Qingzhou Prefecture." "You are mistaken, sir," said Yan Shun. "You must remember that you have lost all your soldiers, so how can you return to Qingzhou Prefecture? Would not the prefect bring an accusation against you? It would be better if you stayed here for a few days. It is true that the accommodation at this wild spot is rather rough, but we will divide our gold and silver with you, and give you whatever clothes you require, and you will be quite safe here from the wrath of your superior officer." General Qin Ming stepped out of the hall and said, "While living, I am a subject of the great Song Empire, and when dead I shall be a ghost of it. I received my commission as a general from the emperor, and as I have been well and fairly treated, how can I become a bandit and rebel against the emperor? You gentlemen can kill me at any time that suits your convenience." Yan Shun came forward and persuaded General Qin Ming, "Elder brother, please listen to what I say. I am also the son of an official who received his appointment direct from the court, but have been forced by circumstances to become a bandit. As you are unwilling to join us, we request you to stay with us at least for a little time until the feast is over. I will return to you the armor, helmet, your horse and arms, and you can then go if you like." General Qin Ming was unwilling to stay, so Huarong again spoke to him, "When you arrived, you were extremely tired with your previous exertions, and your horse was also wearied, so that you must at least give it time to eat its fodder before you depart." General Qin Ming thought that this was quite true, so he sat down at the feast. The 5 men acted as hosts, and saw that he was well supplied with wine. They treated General Qin Ming so well that it was not long before he was drunk, and they then conducted him to a room where he lay down to sleep. He awoke about 9 a.m. the next morning, and after toilet he wished again to leave the mountain. After breakfast they gave him his armor and helmet. Men were also sent down the mountain with his arms and horse with instructions to wait there for him. The 5 brigand chiefs accompanied him down the mountain, and before leaving, handed him his arms and horse. General Qin Ming mounted, and rode off at great speed towards Qingzhou Prefecture. He was only about 4 li from his destination, and it was about 11 a.m., when he saw clouds of smoke and dust in the distance. When he saw this he became suspicious, as he had not met a single person on the road. As he approached the town of Qingzhou Prefecture, he saw that the suburbs were in flame. The houses were all in ruins, and among the debris were the corpses of men, women, and children. He made his way through the ruins, but when he reached the city gate he found that the drawbridge was up, and that there were numerous soldiers on the wall armed with logs and huge boulders. He reined in his horse and shouted, "Let down the bridge as I wish to enter the city." The soldiers had seen him coming, and recognizing him they raised a shout and beat their drums. The thunderer shouted, "I am General Qin Ming. Why do you not let me into the city?" Just then he noticed the prefect Murong was standing at the breastwork of the wall gazing at him, and saying, "Rebellious bandit. Why are you not ashamed of yourself? Last night you came here with soldiers and attacked our town, killed many innocent people, and burnt many houses. And yet today you come again, and by deception try to get the gates opened. The emperor has treated you well, but now you act in this ungrateful way. I have however written a memorial to the court about your affair. Sooner or later you will be arrested and cut into pieces." "Your worship," shouted General Qin Ming, "I took soldiers to attack the bandits, but was defeated and taken up the mountain as prisoner. I have just been released, so how could I be here and attack the city last night? Do you think that I did not recognize you by your armor, your arms, your helmet, and your horse? All the men here saw you last night directing the bandits to kill the people and burn the houses. So why do you prevaricate now? Even if you were defeated, how is it that not a single one of your men returned to report the matter? Do you try to deceive my men and get the gate open so that you can see your family again? If so, let me tell you that your wife and all your family were killed this morning. If you do not believe this, I will have your wife's head brought here for you to look at." The soldiers immediately putting the head on a spear held it aloft for General Qin Ming to gaze at. He was a hot-tempered man, and the depth of his misery made him unable to utter a word. The archers now commenced to shoot a shower of arrows at him, so he turned his horse and retreated for safety. As he returned, the houses all around were still burning, and amid all this destruction, he could not find a place where he could put an end to his own life. He was buried in deep thought as he rode along. He had not gone more than 4 li when he saw a troop of cavalry emerging from a forest, and they were led by 5 heroes in front. He recognized them as the 5 chiefs of the bandits. Song Jiang rose in his stirrups and saluting said, "Why do you return from Qingzhou Prefecture, sir? You are by yourself, but where are you going?" General Qin Ming was very angry at this and said, "I should like to know who has been in my disguise in an attack on the town, and had so many people killed, so many houses destroyed, and my own family wiped out. He is deserving of death. He has made my situation so terrible that I cannot find a way in heaven or earth to end my misery. If I find that man, I will smash him into pieces with my mace." "Sir, do not be angry," said Song Jiang. "I have a proposal to make, but this is not a suitable place to discuss it. I request you to accompany us to our mountain stronghold where I can explain it to you." General Qin Ming saw no other way but to follow them. They said nothing on the road, but when they reached the stronghold they all dismounted and entered the main hall where a feast was soon spread. The chiefs requested General Qin Ming to take the seat of honor. They then knelt down before him, but he immediately did the same to them. "Sir, please excuse us," said Song Jiang. "Yesterday we tried to detain you on our mountain. But as you were determined to go, so we thought of a plan, and dressed one of our bandits in your armor and helmet, gave him your mace and horse, and instructed him to lead our men to attack Qingzhou Prefecture and kill the people there. These men were reinforced by Yan Shun and Stunted Tiger, who each led about 50 men, and acted as if you yourself wanted to get your wife and family out of Qingzhou Prefecture. The object of this destruction was to put an end to your desire to go back. We now confess our faults." Upon hearing this, General Qin Ming boiled with rage. He would have liked to fight with Song Jiang at once, but on second thoughts he knew that he was destined by fate to join them. Further, he could not fight when they were all in such a submissive attitude, and again he was entirely by himself, and was powerless against so many. Therefore he suppressed his anger, and replied, "Though it was kind of you to detain me here, yet it resulted in a great injury to me, as all the members of my family were killed." "If we had not done that," said Song Jiang, "you would not have been willing to give up all thought of returning to your family. As, however, you have no wife, now Huarong is willing to marry his younger sister, who would make an excellent wife to you. What do you say to that?" General Qin Ming was persuaded as he saw that they all meant so much respect and care for him. They then all sat down with Song Jiang in the place of honor, and partook of the feast provided. During the meal they discussed their plans for an attack on Qingfeng town. General Qin Ming said, "It will be an easy task, and you need not worry about it. Huang Xian is my subordinate, and I trained him in all military matters. Also we are on good terms with each other. So tomorrow I will go and get the town barriers opened. I will talk matters over with him, and induce him to come with me and join your band. I will bring all Huarong's family here, and will also arrest Magistrate Lu Gao's wife so that you will be revenged for what she did to you." "That will be most excellent," said Song Jiang. The following morning General Qin Ming mounted his horse, and taking his mace, went down the mountain to Qingfeng town. At the town the barricades were well and strongly guarded by soldiers, and although many scouts had been sent out, yet no news arrived of any reinforcement from Qingzhou Prefecture. When General Qin Ming arrived and demanded admittance, a messenger was sent to Huang Xian, who mounted his horse and hurried to the barricade. There he saw General Qin Ming by himself without even an orderly. He at once gave orders for the drawbridge to be lowered, and when General Qin Ming rode over it, Huang Xian conducted him to his quarters. After the usual salutations, Huang Xian asked how it happened that the general had returned by himself and unaccompanied. The general then told him how he had been defeated, and that he had now joined the bandits who were led by Song Jiang, of whom he spoke very highly. He argued strongly that Huang Xian should also join the bandits, and so avoid the abuse of the civil authorities. "As you, my benefactor, have joined the bandits," said Huang Xian, "I will go with you." They discussed the whole situation, and were on the point of rising, when a soldier reported that large bodies of men and horses were marching upon the town. Qin Ming and Huang Xian immediately mounted their steeds, and galloped to the barricades, where they saw the cloud of dust raised by the movement of large troops. The town is invaded with troops. While 4 chiefs descend a mountain.